Hi everybody, I'm Lori, the owner of the Pie Bar in downtown Long Beach. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be making pumpkin pie. So you should either already have the recipe that was emailed out to you, or maybe you picked up a baking kit from us with all the ingredients. So anyway, let's get started. Let's go over a few of the tools that you should have with you. You need to have 2 medium bowls, a pie tin, can be glass or metal. We actually use aluminum, 9-inch. You'll need a rolling pin, a whisk, a knife, a spatula, a 1 cup measuring cup and a 1/4 cup, and a 1/2 teaspoon and a little baby 1/4 teaspoon. All right, so we're gonna get started with the dough. And so you're gonna take your medium bowl and we're going to measure in 1 1/4 cup of all-purpose non-bleached flour. You don't need to use bleached flour. It's just another chemical in our food that we don't need. So as you can see, all flour is white. So we're gonna go start with the cup. And with flour, you don't want to pack it. So I'm going to take my cup and then I'm going to use another cup to just spoon it into there so that it's overflowing. And then you want to level it off. So you want to take your knife and just run it across the top so that it's nice and flat. Baking's very precise. It's all about science. So you have to be really exact with your measurements. All right, so there's a cup. And then we're gonna do the same with the 1/4 cup. Same thing, pile it up, level it off. All right, so we've got our flour. Next we're going to add our salt and white sugar. So 1 1/2 teaspoons of white sugar, and then 1 1/2 teaspoons of kosher salt. Okay, so now we're going to just mix up our dry ingredients. Just get that sugar and salt mixed in there. All right, set that aside. Now we're going to add our fat. So here at the Pie Bar, we use a couple different dough recipes. The one we're using today is all butter. And the key thing you want to remember with pie is that your butter, your ice water, everything has to be cold, cold, cold. I even put my 1/2 cup of butter in the freezer for a little bit, just to make sure it's extra cold. So, and the thing to remember too, you should be using unsalted butter because we added salt. And if you use unsalted butter, it gives you a chance to monitor the amount of salt that's in your recipe. So we're just gonna cut, you guys can see that, cut up the butter into smaller pieces like that. And then we're just going to add them into the flour. All right, so you want to have it cut into some smaller little pieces, because now what we're going to do is we need to break up that butter into like little pea-sized pieces. So you can use a food processor. I just always like to use my hands. It's therapeutic to work with dough, I think. So you just want to kind of rub the butter between your fingers. We're just trying to break it into little pieces and get all those little pieces coated with the flour. Now the other thing to remember when you're making pie is it's not like making a cake or cookies or bread. you're not trying to get it totally combined. So we want to see chunks of butter in here, and that'll give us a nice flaky crust. So this takes a few minutes, no need to rush. I grew up making pies with my mom. I always loved to bake, and I went through a lot of Easy Bake ovens. One of my first toy ovens sits here in the shop. When my mom found out I was starting a pie company, she's like, "Oh, Lori, I have your childhood oven in the attic." So she sent it to me. Hi, Mom, if you're watching. And she sent it down to me, and it sits here in the shop today. It's always been fun to see little kids look at it and I kind of tell them a story. And fun fact, we were actually written up in Entrepreneur magazine. There's an article in every issue. It's called What Inspires Me. So they wrote about my little childhood oven. So that was in the July 2019 issue. So that's kind of fun to be written up in a national magazine. All right, so we're just working this, squishing up the little butter, breaking it up. You want to get it about the size of little peas. So I'm just kind of, you can see it's still got dry ingredients, got a little bit of butter. I'm just going through here and grabbing the last pieces. Break them up. All right, so we've got all of our butter broken up. Now we're going to add ice water. So again, you want your water to be super cold, and you don't want any ice to get into the dough, but we're going to make sure that it's nice and cold. You want to just add like a teaspoon at a time, because as soon as you start to add water, gluten starts to form, and that's what makes your dough, can make your dough really sticky and tough, and we don't want that. So we're just going to go slow. Going to add a little bit of water, 1 teaspoon at a time, mix it up. Remember, we're not trying to blend it. We're just trying to get a dough to form. All right. So just kind of toss it, work it together until it starts to stick together. So you can see, as I've added a little bit of water, some of it now is starting to stick together. I've got some that I can squeeze into a ball and it stays. The rest is still pretty dry. So we need a little more water. So again, a little bit, because you can always add more, but if you add too much water, you can't take it out. And it's going to make your dough really sticky and hard to roll out. So this is almost ready. I need maybe a little bit more water because there's still some little dry spots. All right, we should be almost there. How are you guys doing? The next part is fun. We get to roll it out. Okay, so I think this is almost ready to go. All right. So now I've got it into a ball of dough. Okay, so all the dry stuff gone. And now we have a ball of dough. All right, now normally if we weren't doing this by video, you'll want to press it into a disc and wrap it in plastic wrap and then put it in your fridge for an hour, up to 2 days. So you can make your dough ahead of time. You can make a bigger batch. You can even throw some in the freezer. So we're going to put some flour down on the table. Plenty of flour because we don't want it to stick. All right, get my water out of the way. Okay, so we're gonna take this now and we're gonna press it into like a disc. All right. And make sure you have enough flour underneath it so it doesn't stick. And then we're gonna take a little bit of flour and put it on top. All right, take your rolling pin and we're gonna start in the middle and then just roll out and then roll back. So we're gonna make an oblong at first, about 12 inches. So out and back. And be sure to keep flour on your rolling pin so it doesn't stick. Okay, so roll, and you have to apply a fair amount of pressure. All right, so now we're just going to turn it a quarter turn, and I'm gonna make sure I have enough flour underneath there so it doesn't stick. A little bit more on top. All right, now we're gonna do the same thing the other direction. Start in the middle, roll out, roll back, and now you can start to just make a circle. We want it to be about a 1/4 inch thickness and about 12 inches in diameter. It'll give you a nice crust to work with. And the way you can check is you can take your tin and you can just turn it upside down. And so you want to see about 1 inch of dough all the way around the edge, because we're going to use that to fold and make the sides of it. Okay, so I'm going to show you a tricky part now to get it into the tin. So take your rolling pin and go out here on the very edge and grab it and just roll it onto your tin. I mean onto your rolling pin. Tin pin, I get confused. All right, so got my tin, set it in the middle, and then you're going to just take this and you're going to roll it right back into the tin, just like that. Okay, so now it's kind of sitting on top, floating. We want to press in the bottom and the sides so that we don't have any air pockets underneath. Okay, hope you guys are doing good. The rolling is kind of the toughest part and it just takes practice. So, all right, so we have our pie dough in the tin. It's all pressed down around the edges and the side. And now we're going to create the edge. And so some of this is a little too long. So we're going to tear some of it off. Okay, because you only want about 1 inch. Okay, and then we're going to take that and we're just going to tuck it under and fold. And you can just go along the edge, tear off little pieces. Tuck and fold, tuck and fold. All right. Don't worry, we're gonna make it pretty in a minute. All right. So tuck and fold, tuck and fold. So now you should have your pie tin. And see, it's got the little edge just kind of standing up. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to crimp it. So this is just for decoration. So I like to take my pointer finger, the knuckle, and then my other pointer finger and thumb and just squeeze the dough in between, okay? So we're gonna go around the side here. See, I'm just taking my knuckle and then pinching the dough in between my fingers. So we're just going to go around. And you can decorate the edges any way you like. You can get fancy. There's all types of designs. If you look in books, there's a lot of different designs. All right, but this is quick and easy. So now what you have is a pie crust ready to fill. All right, so we're going to set that aside. And we're going to take another bowl, a clean bowl, and we're going to start with our egg. So, an egg, I'm going to crack that into my bowl. You always want to start with your wet ingredients first. So with the egg, we just need to mix it up. You can use a whisk. You can use a fork. We just want to combine the yolk and the white together. All right. Then next, we're going to add our pumpkin. So we have a cup of pumpkin. And I like to use just good old Libby's 100% pure pumpkin. You can like get a fresh pumpkin and bake it, and I've done that before. It's a lot of extra work, and I personally don't think you get a better pie. But if you want to spend all day making a pumpkin pie, that would be a way to do it. And be sure when you get Libby's that you don't get the pumpkin pie mix. You want just the pure pumpkin, because the pumpkin mix actually has spices added into it. And we're going to add our own spices. All right, so I've got my pumpkin, my egg. I'm going to add in now my milk. And that's whole milk, because why use anything less? And evaporated milk. All right, so we've got our 2 milks in there. And again, we're just going to mix that up just so the wet ingredients are blended before we add our spices. All right. Now we're going to add some sugar. So we have our white sugar and brown sugar. And we can give that another mix again. We're going to add in our spices. We have some salt, some ground cloves. I love how cloves smell. It reminds me of the holidays. So we've got ground cloves, some ground ginger, and finally ground cinnamon. All right, so we're just going to blend that all together. Scrape the sides of your bowls. You don't want any of the spices stuck on the side. So just want to mix it until everything's combined. All the spices are through there. All right. Now we're just going to take our lovely pie crust and pour in the filling. You can take your spatula and just scrape around the edges so we get every little bit of that filling. All right, now we're ready to go into the oven. Very important that you preheat your oven. So let it get hot, and we're going to bake it for the first 15 minutes at 400 degrees. And what that does is that just flash sets your crust, so you'll have a nice crispy crust. No need to pre-bake the crust. We're going to do it all with the filling inside. And then the remaining time, after the first 15 minutes at 400, then you'll turn it down 50 degrees and bake it for another 20 to 25 minutes. Every oven is different. So you'll probably know if your oven bakes hot. So you just a little bit of trial and error. But you want to bake it until, if you shake it, it's not like jiggly in the middle. So, all right, so we're just going to put that on a baking sheet and put it in our preheated oven. All right, and then by the magic of video, I have one that I baked earlier. So when it comes out, there you go. You've got your full pumpkin pie, and you're ready to enjoy. You can add it with a little bit of whipped cream. So that's it. Congratulations, making your pumpkin pie. I hope you had fun. Let me know if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions for new classes, and I wish you all happy baking. Okay, bye everybody. Thank you.